California FarmLink. For those of you who don't know, FarmLink, we're a nonprofit, and we help farmers get access to land and access to capital. In the next 30 minutes, we're talking about financing. And the way that I've structured the conversation is a couple of things. One is I'm hoping that you all get information that helps answer the questions of what do you need money for, where can you get it, and how can you get it. And I'm hoping to make it an interactive discussion, a conversation, instead of me talking at you for the next 30 minutes. So if you don't participate, then this will be
Maybe I should just mention that I'm here to learn as well. I'm observing and getting up to speed on all of this, so just putting it out there so you don't expect me to like.
You're doing this one, right? So as an opening question, what do you guys need money for?
You know, I don't need money. I've got enough money to carry me down the road for quite a ways. My concern is I want reserve capital. If the poop hits the barn, I want to be able to know that I have access to reserve capital in the event that I need it. So that's really what, for me, that's why I'm here.
Okay.
So you looking for reserve.
Yeah.
What else do you guys need money for? Hello.
I need startup capital and I need a reserve of money when I don't make income right away from my efforts.
Okay.
So,
And what's included in startup capital? What are you going to buy? What are you going to spend money on?
supplies and/or equipment.
Supplies and equipment. What kind of supplies do you need? What are you going with?
Worms.
Worms. Okay.
So I need materials for the basic bin constructions.
Okay.
And I might need a piece of equipment or two, such as bagging machines,
Yep.
maybe a tractor of some kind,
Yep.
things like that.
Okay. What else do you guys need money for? So we're making this an interactive workshop, so if you don't participate, then I'll kick you out.
Well, we have also the benefit of having our own startup capital to a certain dollar volume that we know this is what we have, but we have not gone through an exercise of very specific budgeting of that. In fact, it's only been in the last year that we sort of identified, oh, what is going to be that number? Right, okay, yeah. And so we're not up against it right now, but we also don't, so what I'm interested in, and part of this financial part, is definitely establishing, okay, what do the next couple of years look like with so looking at this 2 years history, and then potentially needing a little bit more than we're saying we want to do to just move to the next level of our own expansion. So maybe expansion, let's put it that way.
And what would you pay for? What does the expansion look like? What do you need to buy?
Oh, okay. Probably, that's what I'm just not sure of.
That's just a little bit
Because
of
probably labor wouldn't really be something you get a loan for. So it might even be so much as, or it might even be so much as additional infrastructure, depending on what we're growing, additional either sort of warehousing infrastructure, a cooler like we were talking about today, we're butted up against, we've got a small cooler where it's kind of challenging, maybe more chicken houses. So there's some infrastructure stuff that can be happening, expanded irrigation, more pumping capacity, these types of things. So there's both infrastructure, permanent and mobile. Anyway.
Okay. What else do you guys?
Now, on the other side of my property, I haven't even thought about farming it because it's going to take, I think, $30,000 to $50,000 to establish the farming, whether it be grapes or whatever it is that I'm going to do, and that is money that I'm not preparing for now. So yeah, access to capital is important.
Right. And then you mentioned like to put crops in the ground is what you were referring to.
Yes.
That's the Okay. Anything else that people need money for when they spend the money?
Well, why do I get a vision that you're the Wizard of Oz?
Whoa. Not my business card.
We have a cooperative for immigrant families, and we have like 5 members, families on this cooperative. And it's very important for us if we work 1 hour, 2 hours. I mean, we have the equipment to do the work use so that way don't spend so long time, because we do this after work. this is very much work to start
Right.
a cooperative to make it a real business.
Yep.
So the families, they can have access from, income
Right.
and make it a regular
Right.
business for their lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is gonna take time, in other words.
Right.
And we need I don't know if it's a small tractor or a small caterpillar, because I just found a tractor, when it's small, it's not powerful.
Right.
It's not that much,
Right.
powerful to dig,
Right.
really dig the ground.
Yep.
And I think the caterpillar is better because it's more stable and
Okay.
can go more deeper.
Okay.
So a small caterpillar, I think is what we need, and we need a cooler too.
Mm-hmm.
And some trailer, little trailer,
Mm-hmm.
put it with the truck and we can put the vegetables there and can offer different places.
Right. So more equipment infrastructure.
Yeah, what about that?
Okay, great. Anything else? And we'll move on. Okay, so one thing that I'm gonna kind of put all these things together, and it'll come up later, is that in terms of thinking about things you need money for, where you're gonna get that money and how you're gonna get it, it's helpful for you to keep in mind that there are three kinds of buckets of things. There's money that you need for production and operations. It's stuff that you're going to be buying or spending money on an ongoing basis. If you do row crops, you buy seeds and plants and maybe fertilizer, you're going to pay labor to maintain it, harvest it, etc., etc. That's kind of year after year you put money in, and hopefully you'll make enough money to pay for all of that stuff. The second bucket is equipment and infrastructure. We talked a lot about that: tractors and coolers and fencing and etc., etc. These are things that you're going to pay for, and hopefully will have a useful life of many years. So there's the second bucket. And the third bucket is land. To buy land, it's really expensive. You need to finance it for a long period of time. So these three different buckets of things that you need to finance, it's really different how you get it, where you might get it from, how much it might cost, etc. So I'll circle back to this later, but kind of keep that in mind. There's operating money, there's equipment and infrastructure money, and there's money for land. Okay? So there's all this stuff that you guys need to buy. Apart from the money that you already have, that you might have, that you're putting into this, where else would you go today to go find this money?
Well, I have an existing nonprofit, so
Okay.
up to now I've existed, I've done what I do, composting and selling worms to a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been fairly successful at getting donations from individual donors and Rotary clubs and grants.
Great. So grants is
Grants, yeah.
So donations and grants is one way.
Yeah.
Okay. Where else would you go today to get money? Where would you go to? Where would you go to get your?
My initial thought is to go and borrow against my property, which I own.
You could borrow against your property. Where would you go to borrow against your property?
Bank.
You go to the bank. All right. Where else might you go?
Family.
Family. That's a good option. Sometimes yes. Sometimes yes. Sometimes not. Where else might you go to get the money that you need?
Small business administration, government take.
Government type stuff. SBA. Yeah. Anywhere else?
Banks.
Banks. I'm lumped in credit unions and that. Anywhere else? Who mentioned? Someone mentioned crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding.
Kickstarter, the birthday earlier.
Right. Mentioned Kickstarter. Anywhere else?
They say very much, those basically every month, donations or grants.
Mm-hmm. Does anyone else have a nonprofit?
This, we are
The
right
cooperative.
now, yeah.
The cooperative is a nonprofit.
Because we are making no money.
But the legal structure.
Yeah, everything is non-profit.
It's a nonprofit.
Yeah, but it's hard to say if it's non-profit because I would say, we are on the way to make it a real business.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
when the question coming up is a non-profit or is a profit. So, it's hard for me to say, but
Right.
we start like non-profit.
Okay. Anywhere else that you guys might think of going?
California farmland.
California farmland, good answer.
Is that a subsidiary of the U.S. Farm League? Or is
No, all the farm links are separate organizations. So California Farm Link is an independent federal
And is
entity.
there a federal farm link that stands alone as a kind of like state government, federal government?
That I know of. Like we're not an affiliate or a member of another organization. Yeah.
Good,
To some extent, you can go to Farm Service Agency.
Absolutely.
Resource Conservation District.
Absolutely. Yep.
Do those make things available for private business as well as nonprofit? Things like RCDs and?
So the NRCS absolutely, and FSA absolutely. FSA in terms of their lending actually does not lend to nonprofit farms. They only lend.
Only to businesses.
Yes, exactly. Which would be true also of SBA, for example.
Yeah, I guess I should say, we actually did just get a grant, which I kind of because we've been so busy, but we just got an $8,500 grant from NRCS.
Very good.
Houses, and it's a grant, it's straight out gift.
That's
Yeah.
great.
So it's hoop houses and composting and cover crop.
That's great.
$500 over the next 2 years. And-
Excellent.
Oh, the paperwork.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, there was less to do, but it was less for us to do, and I could not believe what came back.
You know, there are people who make a living off of grant application writing alone, so.
Absolutely.
Just layers and layers
Yeah.
of this precision with which, we're never going to be able to do it as precise as they lay out. I mean, they have to measure by the pound the cover crop for each of our 180 rows and document. It's never going to happen in that sort of specificity, but they essentially created for us our plan so we would fit their guidelines, but it was quite astounding how specific they want to be with that. But anyway.
So far, do you think it's worth it?
No, we haven't gotten a dime yet, but it's going to be interesting to see if it's worth it. Because I think we're going to start, right now we're in the process of getting ready for the cover crop, and they're going to buy our cover crop seed. So yeah, that'll be worth it. I mean, it's going to be a few $100. We better. Absolutely.
And for you,
Buy-in is get reimbursed.
I will submit receipts. We'll just document that we played it around what days, what roads, we can do that. Yeah.
based on your reaction, I'm curious if you have considered it and thought that it being not worthwhile.
I only see that case for resource conservation. I know the amount of people that is required.
You're familiar with that.
Okay, I asked the question because with all of the whole spectrum of financing options that you all have available to you, there's trade-offs with everything. There's trade-offs in time, there's trade-offs in cost, there's all sorts of trade-offs, and even with family, you talk about there's a trade-off in relationships and headache. So there's trade-offs in any kind of financing that you might choose to pursue. So you guys have laid out a few of the different, options that you all have in terms of how to finance and pay for the things that you guys need to get for your farms. And I'm going to try to put them into buckets again. So the first bucket is your own money, savings. I think the two of you both mentioned kind of your own capital. That's definitely one thing that we recommend to a lot of people. It's like, use your money first. Like, you don't got to pay it back to anybody. There's no strings attached to your own money. You can do what you want with it. So there's that. And then very kind of closely related to it, there's always strings with this, but friends and family is kind of a very close second to that in terms of, there's your own money and people that know you really well, that, I'm going to put that into one bucket. A second bucket is large financial institutions. So someone mentioned a bank, could be for borrowing at your house, it could be just going to a bank for a business loan. It could be a credit union, it could be, for those of you familiar with Farm Credit, which is kind of the national farm credit system, and American Ag Credit is one of the local farm credit institutions. These banks, credit unions, Farm Credit are large institutions that serve established large farms really well and have it's a mixed bag on beginning newer, smaller farms. So you may meet a loan officer that works for a farm credit agency that that is great and will take the time to work with you and be your advocate. And you may talk to someone in American Ag Credit that won't give you the time of day because you make less than $500 a year. So it's really hit and miss, kind of on a large institutional front. In addition to those, there's grants, which is kind of like a whole separate thing with NRCS, and I think you guys have touched on. It's a trade-off of time and paperwork, but if it's money that you don't have to pay back, then that's nice. And then separate from that, there's two more buckets. One is there's this world of alternative financing, which includes crowdfunding. And then there's nonprofit and government agencies, including California Farmland and Farm Service Agency, which I mentioned. So on the alternative financing fund, I'm going to touch on this really quickly. How many people know what Kickstarter is and how it works and what they do?
A little bit, I've seen a couple campaigns, but.
Do you guys know what Kickstarter is? Okay, so I'll just, Kickstarter, so there's two types of crowdfunding. There's money that you can raise that you don't have to pay back. There's money that you can raise that you do have to pay back. Kickstarter is one of those where if you raise money, you don't have to pay it back. You spend lots and lots of time putting together a campaign online to tell a compelling story of why someone should give you money. Why you're trying to raise $10,000 to start your farm, whatever it is, $10,000 to buy a tractor, or to whatever you want to do with your farm. So you spend a lot of time doing that, and you have to there's a lot of strings attached to it in terms of you have to provide rewards to people that give you money, and you have to be able to reach probably hundreds and hundreds of people to be able to raise the money. So people are kicking in like $25, $50 at a time.